here today not to entertain you, but to enlighten you about a subject that's of vital interest to me. Good nutrition. This book is a graphic account of one man's search for better health for all of us. His name was Dr. Weston A. Price. In 1930, he left a successful dental practice in Cleveland, Ohio, to begin dental research that was to take him around the world. He traveled 150,000 miles studying the effects of diet on primitive people, and in particular, how diet affected their teeth and general body development. But first, let's go back to 1936. Here is Dr. Price describing his work.
Peter.
Hey, I think that's a pretty good
That's
book.
fine. Here's a fine boy. See this boy. You come over here. You see. How old are you?
What do you mean?
A number of the teeth have decayed cavities in them. And that has happened because he's not eating enough fish or not getting enough milk. Say, you're a fine, big, strong fella. How old are you? Why, you look as though you were a giant. My. Where'd you come from? Labrador. Well, that's the place. Did you eat lots of fish when you were a little boy? Yes. That's the stuff that makes good bodies. If everybody do that. The most universal disease in the world is the decay of the teeth. And unfortunately, we have not known the cause until we've gone to the primitive people to find how they prevent tooth decay. Our difficulty is that we are adding too much white flour and sugar and do not get enough of the foods that carry the minerals and vitamins. When the primitive people adopt the food of modern civilization, their teeth decay just as ours do. I've spent several years studying the primitive people in various parts of the world, and I've come as a missionary from them to the people of modern civilization. And I beg of you to learn of their accumulated wisdom. And if you do, you too can have strong, healthy bodies without so much disease as we suffer from these days.
Dr. Price was 60 when he began his worldwide nutrition travels. He was still traveling at 70, searching for the conditions that supported and sustained good health. In his studies, he found that primitive peoples who wisely chose their foods had good health when they ate the natural foods available to them. When they ate the foods of modern society, the decline in health was devastating. Dr. Price made thousands of photographs of people all over the world showing the results of his work. Many of these photographs were transferred to glass slides by him. These slides and photographs were used in illustrated lectures presented worldwide by Dr. Price himself. His message? That eating the wrong kinds of modern food caused tooth decay, general physical degeneration, and facial and dental arch deformities. We're going to look at some of these photographs and share some of Dr. Price's experiences as he began his search for health in the early 1930s.
He first visited Switzerland to study whether greater nutrition could be obtained from foods produced at higher altitudes, such as in the Swiss Alpines. He discovered the isolated Lechental Valley, a community compelled by its very isolation to eat locally produced foods. Here he made physical examinations of teeth, recorded data, collected menus, and made photographs of the people. Samples of food and saliva were taken for later analysis in his laboratory. The children had well-formed teeth, good physiques, and an apparent immunity to disease and dental problems. They ate mainly dairy products, whole rye bread, and plant foods such as potatoes and cabbage. Meat was eaten sparingly, usually only once a week. In contrast, Swiss children living in modernized districts had widespread tooth decay, facial and dental arch deformities, and greater susceptibility to disease. Their diet, refined flour, a high intake of sweets, chocolate, sweetened fruits, and a reduced use of dairy products. On his next journey, Dr. Price visited the Outer Hebrides, located off the coast of Scotland. Here he made similar studies among the Gaelic people who inhabit these isolated islands. These rather barren islands have very few trees and little fertility. The islands are often subjected to rough seas and blizzards from the North Atlantic. Most of the people are of early Scottish descent, possessing a physique that rivals that found almost any place in the world. Their teeth are of unusual perfection. The basic foods of these islanders are fish and oat products, such as oatmeal, whole grain breads, and shellfish. But when the islanders were exposed to the foods of commerce, it was a repetition of what had been found in Switzerland. Bad teeth and general physical degeneration was the result. For example, these two brothers lived under the same roof, but ate differently. The older ate primitive foods and was in excellent health. The younger had extensive tooth decay and a poor physique from eating the foods of commerce. In 1933, Dr. and Mrs. Price visited Alaska to study the Eskimos, one of the last examples of a Stone Age people. The areas they visited were isolated. Travel was often very difficult. Among the Eskimos, Dr. Price discovered examples of physical excellence and dental perfection seldom found anywhere else in the world. Living in isolated districts on native foods, they had uniformly broad dental arches and typical Eskimo facial patterns. Their general health was excellent. The Eskimos ate foods rich in minerals and vitamins, mainly caribou, kelp, berries, fresh fish, organs of large sea animals, and seal oil. When the Eskimos were exposed to the foods of commerce, there was a marked rise in dental decay and a change in facial and dental arch formation. Dental service was not readily available, and dental pain was often acute among these people.
Dr. Price continued his studies with the Indians of northern Canada. Although they were in close contact with civilization, they still lived much as their ancestors had.
These Indians inhabited northern British Columbia and the Yukon Territory, an area inside the Rocky Mountain Range. This isolated area had to be reached by water and over roads that often were almost impassable. Long ago, these Indians discovered that the white man got scurvy when forced to live for long periods of time in this area where fresh fruits and vegetables were often not available. To avoid this dreaded disease, the Indians ate the adrenal gland and organs of moose and caribou. This gave them the necessary vitamin C, the vitamin that prevents scurvy. Primitive groups of Indians consistently had well-formed facial and dental arches that represented the tribal pattern. But new generations, exposed to the foods of commerce obtained at trading posts or through government agencies, showed marked changes in facial and dental arch forms. Extensive tooth decay was quite evident.
Dr. Price wrote, "The Indians, like several primitive races I have studied, are aware of the fact that their degeneration is in some way brought about by their contact with the white man. These primitive people had the wisdom to realize that their natural diet would give them good health.
By 1934, Dr. Price decided to study the various people who inhabit the many islands of the South Pacific. New Zealand was also included in his studies. Dr. and Mrs. Price lived with these people, collecting and studying data about their living conditions. Not surprisingly, he found that people who ate the foods of the area, shell and scale fish, plant roots, and tropical fruits, had developed a very high immunity to dental decay. Also, they had well-formed faces and good dental arches. In their primitive state, less than 1% of their teeth were attacked by tooth decay. But as though echoing a warning from nature herself, the message was clear. Those who ate foods outside their natural diets had a rise in tooth decay of over 29%. By 1935, Dr. and Mrs. Price went on one of their longest trips, some 6,000 miles to study 30 different African tribal groups. These people lived in the Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, the Congo, and Tanganyika. Africa was a fertile area for studying primitive peoples, last of the large continents to be invaded and explored by civilized man. It had one of the largest native populations living under primitive conditions. The primitive Africans were healthy, robust people. They had good teeth and fine dental arches. Their overall physique was excellent. Their diet, dairy products, fish, vegetables, and eggs of certain species. An important source of fat-soluble vitamin is the blood of steers. It is a basic food of the Maasai, people of outstanding physiques. For those who ignored tribal nutritional laws, characteristic types of deformity and tooth decay frequently developed.
Once more, Dr. Price found that when primitive people ignored their natural foods and ate the foods of civilization, they paid with poor health. He was convinced that when people ignored nature's laws of life, the result was dental decay, disease, and physical degeneration. Even so, Dr. Price continued his travels and studies.
One of Dr. and Mrs. Price's last journeys was to Peru. Here he compared modern Peruvian society with the ancient Incas. This was done by examining more than 1,000 human skulls of the ancients. Dr. Price did not find one significant deformity of the dental arches. He also found examples of early brain surgery, evidence of the high degree of civilization of the ancients. Primitive Peruvian Indians, subsisting on natural foods indigenous to their country, were healthy and robust, with fine teeth and sturdy bodies. But those who ate the foods of commerce were degenerating and dying rapidly. This was another warning, another indication to obey nature's laws.